Guys, we are talking about your money in processes, accepting credit cards, and the things that you need to consider.
You an entrepreneur, I got what you need.
Hey there, my loves. Welcome back to CPTV. I'm CP, and this is the place for aspiring and growing entrepreneurs who want to turn their passions into businesses and their businesses into freedom. Does that sound like you? Well, then you're going to want to come on in, make yourself at home, take a look around, and definitely subscribe, my love. Because every single Tuesday, I am giving you the strategies and the step-by-step business processes and systems to implement immediately into your business and get to that level of entrepreneurial freedom that you are working so hard for and that you absolutely deserve. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click that bell so that you don't miss any of it. And of course, if you like this, then show me. Don't hold it in. Smash that like button and say in the comments, show me the money, CP. Show me the money! It's a classic, y'all. A classic. Love that movie. Okay, so welcome back to the Process Lab, y'all. We've been talking about business processes so far all year long, and we're going to continue to talk about them until we get all of your business processes and systems set up so that you can really feel success and scale and grow and just get that much closer to that dream life that you are manifesting. And don't forget our free Process Lab workbook, if you want to really call it that. It's my guide to creating business processes that scale, and it includes a free SOP template, but it's kind of like our workbook that we've been using as we go through this Process Lab series. So make sure that you grab that. It is in the link. The link is in the description below. And it's also pinned in the comments. It's absolutely free. You just grab it because we will be using that and talking about that a lot throughout this Process Lab series and all the rest of the episodes. And it is going to teach you step by step my process for creating business processes and SOPs in my businesses, because you need to know that before you can really dive deep. And today is a deeper dive. So let's talk about the money. Yes, your money in process. And now I've already discussed this as being one of the core 5 processes that you have to create and that you have to think through when you're setting up business systems. And I'll go ahead and link to that video right here in the cards so that you can watch it. But today we are going to go deeper. All right. We're going to wrap our arms around key money in business processes, accepting credit cards. Yes. It is 2021, and yes, you do need to accept some credit cards in order to make some money in 2021. I'm just saying, okay? So let's talk about the pros and the cons. And the primary 3 ways that you can actually get yourself set up to start accepting credit card payments and get that money in process going so that it can become a primary money in process for your business. So let's get to work. Okay, so let's face it, there are 1,000,001 ways that you can exchange money with someone for a product or service nowadays, ain't there? I mean, you can Cash App them, you can Venmo them, you can Zelly them, hell, you can send a ferry, you can have a pigeon drop it off, you can have a drone deliver it. I mean, there are just 1,000,000 ways. But if you're running a business, you need to have a professional way to bring money into that business, right? Not Cash App. Yeah, y'all remember in last week's episode when I was telling y'all my story about how I wanted to work with somebody as a freelancer in my business. I was going to hire him. And ultimately, I ended up not becoming a client of his because he had a crappy money in business process. He did not accept credit cards. He was trying to get me to Cash App him some money from my business. Okay, so I'll go ahead and link to that as well so that you can check out the entire story. But anyway, that was my point exactly. So when talking about a critical money in process, I am 100% telling you, you have to begin to establish a process for accepting credit cards. You have to get yourself set up to be able to do that. And it can seem scary, but the fact of the matter is there are so many pros to accepting credit cards. And yes, it does require some setup and some thought and some process, but it is easy peasy, and it's going to single-handedly change the game for you in your business. So, pro number one, you have a much greater chance of capturing customers if you accept plastic. I just read an article that said less than 20% of people use cash for transactions anymore. That means that over 80% use credit cards. So if you don't accept credit cards, you are limiting yourself to make money, right? And nowadays, with lower social interaction and kind of being in the middle of a damn pandemic and all, if you haven't determined that setting up your process for accepting credit cards is critical, then I don't even know what I can say to you, okay? Because you just might be tripping or something. Anyway, the second pro in accepting credit cards for you as an entrepreneur is that it naturally brings in higher revenues. There are actually studies out there that have shown that people are likely to spend more if they can use credit instead of cash. That is my story, y'all, okay? You're just gonna have more people with debit and credit cards that they can use that are going to actually have cash on them. Not to mention the staggering numbers about the amount of people that actually use their phones to make purchases nowadays. Well, unless you know something that I don't know about these phones, I don't think nobody is putting cash into their phone these days, right? Let alone if you are trying to target Generation Z. Look, I have 4 Z children and they don't even like to touch cash, okay? They want a card. They don't even know how to count coins. They don't know what a dime is, a penny, nothing. And that brings me to the number 3 pro of accepting credit cards: convenience. It is just more convenient. And things have to be more convenient right now, right? More so than ever before. We can't even see each other, y'all, or come within 6 feet of each other, okay? And it's true for both you and your customer. Your customer is really going to embrace the convenience of being able to use a credit or debit card to make a purchase from you. They're going to actually love it. And for you as the business owner, trust me, credit card usage is going to allow you to do recurrent payments easier. It's going to eliminate all kinds of unnecessary work. It's going to make your entire money in process automated. And it's going to also make accounting and inventory management so much easier for you to follow, which is convenient because you can't be that much more free if you don't have convenience. And trust me, in my very first business, credit card processing wasn't even truly possible. Okay, I'm talking about the early 2000s. And I have used some old school ways of getting my money in processes executed, y'all. And when I say old school, I really mean inconvenient, right? I mean, I had to employ entire teams of people to chase people down sometimes, costing me hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that's a whole nother story, okay? But I can tell you, since adding credit card processing into my businesses as a primary money in process, it has truly changed the game for me. And I know we talked about this before, but I am building a business that will allow me to live an amazing lifestyle, preferably from the beach with all kinds of travel included, okay? Doing what I want to do when I want to do it. So convenience and automation is extremely important to me. And for you, if that's your quest. And credit cards can help you with that. Most definitely. Now, don't get me wrong. There are definitely some cons when it comes to accepting credit cards. And the biggest of them all is the fact that there is an expense you have to pay. Now, merchant service fees and processing fees, depending upon which route you choose to go, which I'm going to get into here shortly. So it's instantly causing you to incur an expense per sale. But I like to think of it as a convenience charge, right? It does exist. but it's a charge. And honestly, in my entire career and entrepreneurial journey, I've never not had some type of expense already tied to a money in process. Whether it was to have to pay a staff person in order to invoice people, it was an expense. Or have to pay collections agencies to go after people for my money, that was an expense. Or having to actually get in my car and go pick up checks and then pray that the checks don't bounce, y'all, okay? That was an expense. Those all have been expenses. So the processing fees that come along with accepting credit cards, to me, are nominal and worth it. Trust me. Because in order to make money, you're going to have to spend a little money, and the small fees that come along with credit card processing don't even equal it. So it just kind of is what it is. But it is a con. You know, the next biggest con that I would say with accepting credit cards is chargebacks and out-of-date card information. So let me explain a little bit more. Okay, so a chargeback happens when you have a customer that uses a credit card and then they go through their credit card company to dispute that charge and have it removed. You could actually just have someone get their money back without any warning, without any refund process, anything. But honestly, you can mitigate the risk of that happening by simply making sure that you've got a really good money in process in place and a great product or service that you are delivering, as well as being able to clearly define your money out refund and cancellation processes. But that's next week, okay? And most of the time, a customer isn't going to skip over you to dispute a charge if they trust you or they believe you. So those really should be rare experiences. But on the other hand, it can be extremely frustrating when you've got someone making payments to you on a recurring basis because you've got an ongoing service that you're providing, right? Or you've got a digital product that's broken up into monthly payments, or you have a more expensive, higher price product that's broken up into smaller payments to make it more affordable. Because if it's going to automatically charge that credit card and that credit card information is no longer valid, then you are not going to get paid. And you've got to go back through the process of getting new credit cards from the customer. But it is what it is, okay? The good news is you can incorporate some automatic steps into your process to take care of gathering that information if that does happen inside of your business. I, for instance, employ something like a simple email sequence that's triggered when my system cannot automatically charge someone's credit card. Then that email sequence will automatically go out to that customer and request updated information in order for them to continue to have access to my service or anything like that. Or you can also have a conversation with the customer on your next coaching call or during your next consulting call or whatever. Just know that you definitely need to work through what that will look like as a part of accepting that plastic and incorporating this into your money and processes. So let's take a look at this from the 10,000-foot view, okay? I want to summarize it all and break this down. The pros that you have to think about. All right. Number one, accepting credit cards allows you to capture more customers. Number two, accepting credit cards allows you to bring in more money and just increase your revenue overall. Number three, accepting credit cards is convenient for both you and your customer. So it just makes things easier to live a life that you love from the beach. Now, the cons you have to think about. Number one, it's going to cost you money to accept credit cards, right? You're going to have various fees that you may be subject to, from processing fees to merchant fees to statement fees, whatever they are. But you're going to have an expense as it relates to the convenience of accepting credit cards, okay? Number two, you may also experience chargebacks. When the customer kind of skips you and disputes the credit card charges directly with their credit card company, you're going to get a chargeback. And you can be blindsided by those or not really even expect them. But like I said, you can also mitigate them if you set things up well and professionally in your business, because folks will trust you. And number three, the mouse chase of getting updated credit card information on recurring charges if a payment card expires or changes. And it does happen. We all have had that happen, right? Fraud, whatever. So it does require you to make sure that you're prepared with the steps that you will take in order to get new card information if that happens to you. All right? Now I want to talk about the 3 primary ways to get set up to accept credit card payments and make this a money-in process. Number 1, and I have to really put this disclaimer out there, okay? I have never pursued option number 1. Well, I can't say never because I think in the very beginning of my career I may have, but I remember it being a huge pain in the butt, so I never pursued it again, all right? And that is actually opening up a merchant account with a bank. Now, this option tends to be a little less costly than option number 2 that I'm getting ready to tell you about, but it is a lot more cumbersome of a process. And sometimes it requires contracts and just paperwork and financial documents and just different stuff like that. But it is a way that you can investigate if you want to look into merchant services. Option number 2, and the way that I've been accepting credit cards for the last 10 plus years, is using a payment service provider. It is a lot less time consuming to set up and it is so much easier. It doesn't require all that stuff. And when I say using a payment service provider, I'm talking about setting up a merchant account with a Square or a Stripe or a PayPal type of service. And this is the option that you will incur those per transaction and flat fees that I've already talked about. But it really is convenient. And some of them provide awesome services that allow you to do other things and keep track from an accounting perspective of your inventory and your sales by product really, really, really well. So now I'm a Stripe girl and I'm also a PayPal girl. And I always recommend using those and doing PayPal as well if you can, because a lot of people make transactions directly from their phones. And the convenience and security that comes with having a PayPal account allows for you to get phone-based purchases so much easier. I can tell you right now that I have not purchased things before because somebody didn't have PayPal as an option. And I was scrolling through my phone, going to make a purchase. And without PayPal, that means I would have to physically get up and go get my purse and get my credit card out and start typing in all these numbers or taking pictures. And I just wasn't feeling that. So the fact that I was not able to use PayPal when I was shopping from my phone has definitely deterred me from making purchases with some vendors. And it will definitely affect you. So I definitely recommend, even if you do use Stripe or Square or something like that, that you also make sure that you have a PayPal option as well. And the third way you can get set up for accepting credit cards is really through using an e-commerce platform or your e-commerce platform, especially if you're a product-based business or a digital product-based business. A lot of the Etsy's or the eBays and the Shopify's have built-in payment processors, just like, if you're an Amazon vendor, for instance. And you can use those platforms as your storefront, your website, and as the payment processor. But a lot of them also integrate with other payment processors like Stripe as well. So you can still use Stripe with them too. But you can ultimately set up a merchant account directly with your platform that you are selling your product through. So it is an option, right? So yeah, there are pros and cons to all of the ways that you can set up your credit cards. Some are more time consuming but cost less, like merchant accounts with a bank, and some cost a little bit more but are a lot more convenient, like payment service providers and your e-commerce sites, okay? So you just really do have to kind of think through your process and what you really want it to look like in order to determine the best choice for you and your business and your goals. But here are some questions that I want you to make sure you think through when you're deciding. First, what is your estimated volume of the transactions that you're expecting? Second, what types of features do you need to track, like inventory and refunds and returns? And third, what are the estimated fees that you're going to be looking at based on your volume that you're estimating if you do incur a per transaction fee? That's why I say you need a process, boo. Because once you begin to document the steps that you want your customers to go through or that you need to go through internally, then you will be able to figure out exactly what assets you need in order to be able to get those things done. Then you're going to choose a money in process that has those assets. And if you're looking at the screen right now thinking, what are you talking about, CP?
What you talking about, Willis?
Don't you just love him? I wonder what happened to him. Anyway, I did an entire video on the step-by-steps of creating business processes already. So I'm going to go ahead and link to that right now because it is critical that you check that out so that you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say assets. All right? Guys, we are talking about your money in processes, accepting credit cards, and the things that you need to consider. I get the question all the time from people about how to set up their finances, how they should be accepting money. How do you do this? How do you do that? How can they bring more money into their businesses? That is what we are talking about today. Your money in processes. It is all a system, boo. It's all a process. In every single aspect of your business journey, if you create a process surrounding it, you will scale very, very rapidly. Trust me, because that's ultimately the goal, right? You got to scale before you can truly get to that freedom, right? So the Process Lab series continues. If you've missed any of the other videos in the series, I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below to the entire playlist because you need to get caught up, boo. And you need to join me next week when we continue with money in processes focused on invoicing. I told you. This is just the beginning because I promise you, we will knock your process documentation and creation out in 2021 for your business so you can delegate. So if you are hella pumped about that, smash the like button and don't forget to subscribe in that bubble right there next to me so that you can catch us next week and every single week after that. And don't forget to share this video with someone else and invite them into the lab. Okay? We're going to be getting some fun. We're getting down and dirty. And make sure you grab that free guide to creating business processes that scale with the SOP template so that you can get started working through your processes. And until next time, my love, I want you to stay safe. See you back here next Tuesday. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye-bye.